You know that feeling, right? You understand English, maybe quite well. You can read it, follow movies, the grammar rules sort of click in your head.
Uh-huh.
But then, bam, you need to actually speak. And it's like everything just grinds to a halt.
Yeah, that mental roadblock. You're searching, trying to piece together the perfect sentence.
Exactly. And while you're doing that internal gymnastics, the moment passes or the other person's just waiting. It's so frustrating.
It really is. And often, well, the root cause is that habit we fall into. Translating everything in our heads, taking thoughts from our first language, and trying to map them word for word onto English.
Which is precisely what we're getting into today, this whole mental translation process. It's like having this constant interpreter running in your brain during conversation.
A middleman, yeah.
And it just slows everything down,
Yeah.
makes your English sound a bit stiff, maybe unnatural sometimes. It really messes with fluent communication.
But
So, our mission for this deep dive is pretty clear. We want to help you train your brain to think directly in English. Cut out that middleman, that internal translator.
make speaking feel more automatic, more natural. That's the goal.
We're going to look at why ditching translation is so crucial and then give you some really practical techniques you can use, like today.
Exactly. Things you can actually do. Because shifting from translating to actually thinking in English, that's a real game changer for fluency.
Okay, let's dig in then. Why exactly is relying on translation such a big hurdle? It feels like the default setting sometimes.
Well, think about it. Languages aren't just lists of words you swap out, you know. They have their own rhythms, their own sentence structures, different ways of expressing ideas.
Right, different logic almost.
Kind of, yeah. English has its own unique ways of putting sentences together, its own idioms, its common expressions. If you just translate directly, word for word, you often end up with things that sound, well, weird.
Or just plain wrong.
Or just plain wrong, exactly. Grammatically incorrect, or just completely unnatural to a native speaker's ear.
I've definitely done that. Tried translating a phrase literally and the result was just awkward. No one would say it like that.
We've all been there. And beyond the awkwardness, think about the mental effort. Your brain is doing double duty.
How so?
First, it forms the thought in your native language. Then, it has to actively search for the English equivalents, figure out the right order, apply the grammar rules.
Okay. It's like running two programs at once.
Precisely. It takes time. It takes mental energy. That's where those pauses come from, the hesitations, that feeling of, freezing mid-sentence. It's cognitive overload, basically.
Okay, message received loud and clear. We need to cut down on the translation. But where do you even start? It feels so automatic.
The first step is actually quite simple, but surprisingly powerful. Start consciously labeling things around you. In English, just name them.
Labeling, like literally just naming objects.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Wherever you are right now, just look around. What do you see?
Okay, well, I see my microphone, my screen, a glass of water, some papers, a bookshelf over there.
Perfect. Just those single words. Microphone, screen, glass, papers, bookshelf. Don't worry about sentences yet.
Just the noun.
Just the nouns for now. The point is to forge a direct link in your mind between the object itself and the English word for it. No detour through your first language.
I see. So when I see my water glass, I think glass, not word for glass in my language class.
Exactly that. Direct association. See a door, think door. Notice a window, think window. A lamp, lamp. It's about creating that immediate connection.
Like building a new pathway in the brain.
That's a great way to put it. And you need to practice it consistently. Make it part of your day. Waiting for the kettle to boil, look around the kitchen. Kettle, mug, tap, fridge. On the bus seat, window, street, building.
It might feel a bit silly at first, maybe.
It might feel a little forced initially, yeah, but stick with it. Your brain starts building those direct connections. Think about learning colors. You see red, you think red. You don't translate it anymore. Same principle.
Okay, I can definitely try that. Just naming stuff mentally seems manageable. What's technique number 2?
Once you start getting comfortable with just the single words, the labeling, you move on to short, simple descriptions.
Okay, adding a bit more detail.
Exactly. Take those objects you were naming and add just a few English words. Keep it really simple.
So instead of just chair, I might think brown chair.
Yeah.
Or the chair is soft.
Perfect. Or instead of just car, maybe red car, or the car is driving. Keep the sentences super short. We're not aiming for poetry here.
Right, no complex grammar needed.
Not at all. The goal is just getting used to forming very basic thoughts in English, quickly. Like, the window is open, my phone is on the table, this coffee is hot. Small, simple observations.
So moving from just book to maybe the book is interesting or blue book?
Precisely. Small steps. Single nouns, then simple noun phrases or subject-verb-object sentences. It's about building those foundational English thought patterns without translating.
Got it. So walk around, name things, then add a tiny description. Okay.
So
What comes after these short descriptions?
the next technique is about narrating your own actions. Thinking about what you're doing in English as you're doing it.
Ah, like a running commentary in my head.
Exactly. So if you're making breakfast, you think, I'm opening the fridge, I am getting the milk, I am pouring cereal.
Oh, okay. So describing the action itself.
Yes. As you do something, describe it simply. I am brushing my teeth. I am tying my shoes. I'm sending an email. The idea is to get your brain used to processing your immediate reality, your actions, directly in English.
Instead of thinking about the action in my first language and then translating that thought.
Spot on. You're training your brain to think about doing things in English from the start. If you're reading, think I am reading a book. If you're listening to this, I am listening.
That feels quite immersive, actually. Like you're constantly practicing even when just going about your day.
It is. And the more you do it, the more natural it feels. Your brain starts to automatically reach for the English words and structures when you think about what you're doing. It becomes your default internal track for your actions.
Okay, this is building up nicely. Labeling, describing, narrating actions. What's next on the list for kicking the translation habit?
The next one is a bit more interactive, maybe a bit more challenging. It's about immediate responses.
Responding immediately.
Yeah.
In English.
Yeah. When someone asks you a question in English, the challenge is to answer right away without pausing to translate your reply first.
Ooh, okay. That does sound harder. The pressure is on then. It's so easy to fall back on translating in that moment.
It definitely takes conscious effort. Start small, really common questions like, how are you?
Right. Don't think my language is response, then translate.
Exactly. Resist that urge. Have a few automatic English replies ready. I'm good, thanks. Pretty well. Not bad. Doing okay. The speed is key. Even just hi, back when someone says hello. Make it instant.
So it's like building muscle memory for simple conversational exchanges. Quick, reflexive answers.
That's a perfect way to describe it. These quick, direct responses break the translation habit in real-time interactions. It also makes your English sound much more natural, more conversational.
Even if they're simple phrases at first.
Especially if they're simple phrases at first. It builds confidence. Over time, you get better at formulating more complex thoughts directly, too. It's like knowing your phone number, you just say it. You don't translate digits.
Okay, I see the power in that, especially for actual conversations. What other techniques can help make English our go-to thinking language?
Another really effective one is to deliberately use English for your internal planning and like mental notes, to-do lists, reminders, that sort of thing.
So shifting my internal monologue for tasks into English.
Exactly. Instead of thinking in your first language, okay, I need to go to the supermarket after work. Consciously think, go to the supermarket after work. Or need milk, bread, eggs.
So planning my day, meeting at 10, call Dave later, finished report, like that.
Yes. Frame your tasks, your plans, your reminders in English in your head. It reinforces English as the language you use for organizing your thoughts and actions. It stops your brain defaulting back for that internal stuff.
Give me another example.
Sure. Maybe you're thinking about weekend plans. Instead of mapping it out in your native language, think Saturday morning, maybe go for a run. Afternoon, meet Sarah for coffee. Sunday, need to do laundry.
It's like you're actively cheesing English for those everyday mental processes.
You are. And over time, doing this consistently really helps make English feel like your default thinking language. Less reliance on translation, more natural fluency.
Okay, so we've got labeling, describing, narrating, immediate responses, and thinking for tasks. That's a solid toolkit. Now, you mentioned earlier that native speakers might think differently. How does knowing that help us think in English?
That's a really important piece of the puzzle. You know, fluency isn't just about knowing words and grammar rules. It's also about understanding how native English speakers tend to, well, organize their thoughts and express them, getting a feel for the flow.
Okay, tell me more. What are some key differences?
Well, one big one, especially in spoken English, is a preference for shorter, more direct sentences.
Shorter sentences.
Yeah. When native speakers talk informally, they often break ideas down into smaller chunks. They generally avoid really long, complicated sentences with lots of clauses, which might be more common in some other languages.
Can you give an example of that contrast?
Sure. Imagine you want to say something like, Given the considerable pressure we are under regarding the deadline and the large volume of tasks still remaining, perhaps it would be prudent to address the most critical items first.
Okay, sounds quite formal.
Right. A native speaker in conversation would probably say something more like, "We're tight on time." Pause. "Got a lot to do." Pause. "Let's focus on the main things first." See, shorter sentences, easier to follow.
Much clearer. Yeah, more direct. So when we're practicing thinking in English, we should aim for that too. Shorten things up.
Absolutely. Try thinking in those shorter, simpler units. Don't feel you have to create these massive, complex sentences in your head, especially at the start. Break your thoughts down. It makes it easier to manage mentally, and it sounds more natural.
So instead of, since the weather forecast predicted rain and I didn't want to get caught without protection, I made sure to bring my umbrella. I think.
Maybe something like, "Looked like rain. Didn't want to get wet. Brought my umbrella." Simple steps.
Got it. What else do native speakers do differently?
Well, we touched on this with the immediate responses, but they use a lot of quick, natural replies that aren't always full, perfect sentences.
Right, the short answers.
Yeah. It's a big part of natural conversation. You don't always need a complete sentence. If someone asks, "Seen the new Star Wars film?" you probably wouldn't say, "Affirmative. I attended a screening of the aforementioned cinematic experience last Tuesday evening."
Huh. No, you'd say, yeah, it was okay, or not yet. Is it good?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Those quick, almost automatic replies are key. Practice those. Don't overthink the grammar in simple exchanges. Just respond naturally. If someone says, "Nice shoes," you just say, "Oh, thanks, one."
Okay.
Not thank you for your compliment regarding my footwear.
Keep it simple, keep it quick. Okay, and what about all those little words like, do they have a role?
They definitely do. Those are filler words, and they're actually quite useful in moderation.
Useful how?
Well, words like, they give you a tiny pause, a split second to gather your thoughts without just having dead silence.
Okay. Thinking time.
Exactly. And they also make your speech sound less robotic, more natural, more conversational. If you're not quite sure about something, instead of silence, you might say, let me think. Or, "Well, I'm not totally sure."
So it's okay to use them sometimes.
Absolutely. If you need a moment, starting with "well" or saying "it's kind of like" is very natural. The trick is not to overdo it. Too many likes or "you knows" can be distracting. But used appropriately, they smooth things out.
Okay, so recapping the native thinking style. Think in shorter sentences, practice those quick, natural replies, and maybe use fillers carefully for pauses and flow. And underpinning all of this is...
actively resisting that urge to translate everything from your first language.
Right, that's the foundation.
Absolutely. And hey, don't worry about making mistakes along the way. Everyone does. Everyone learning a language makes mistakes. The important thing is to keep practicing, keep trying to think directly in English, even if it feels clunky at first. It will get easier.
This has been super helpful, really practical stuff. So now it's time for the challenge. What task can our listeners try out today?
Okay, for today's challenge, let's put that very first technique into action. For the next hour, or even just the next 30 minutes, if an hour feels too long, actively try to name things around you. In English, in your head.
Just the labeling.
Just the labeling. Look at your desk. Laptop, mouse, keyboard, pen, notebook. Look out the window. Tree, car, sky, building. Silently name everything you see. The absolute key is no translation. Direct object to English word connection.
Okay, so if I'm making coffee, kettle, mug, coffee, sugar, spoon.
Perfect. And if you're feeling up for it, try the next level too, the short descriptions. As you go about your business in that hour, describe what you're doing in simple English sentences in your head.
Like the narration part.
Exactly. I am walking. I'm opening the door. I am drinking water. I am reading this email. Keep them short, keep them simple. Present tense is easiest.
Sounds like a great way to immediately apply this. Very concrete.
It is. And we genuinely love to hear how you get on. Maybe leave us a comment. Tell us one thing you labeled or described in English without translating first. How did it feel? Was it easy? A bit weird? Challenging?
Yeah, share your experience. It helps everyone else listening too.
Definitely. Your feedback is really valuable.
Fantastic. It really is about taking these deliberate steps, isn't it, to kind of rewire the brain for English.
That's exactly it. Stop translating. Start training your brain directly with these simple, everyday techniques. That's how you break the habit and start really thinking in English.
And looking ahead, what's coming up in our next deep dive?
Tomorrow, we're tackling something else that's crucial. How to learn English vocabulary much, much faster. We've got some really effective techniques to share.
Oh, faster vocabulary learning. Okay, definitely tuning in for that one.
You won't want to miss it.
All right, well, that wraps up our deep dive for today. Give that challenge a go.
Keep practicing. Keep pushing yourself gently. And remember the main goal. Think in English. Catch you next time.